Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support. Connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock.
My name is Danny.
We are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
You have to admit it, Danny's right. It always makes it better.
Welcome to the show. Danny said I should hit record. Here we are talking just off on our own. Danny's like, you need to hit record. So here we are.
We should record this because everything we're talking about is stuff that I think other dads will want to know about.
I know. It'll be fun. Hey, but that's all part of the show anyway. I mean, people like it because it's just two guys talking with microphones. So
I hope so, because that's about all you're going to get. Sorry.
That's all you're going to get. Well, man, anyway. Yeah. So what we were talking about before that was the fact that I'm in the process of possibly getting a fun part-time job just based off of going and talking to a local company. So
another fun part-time job, right?
Is this really
right.
part-time? What?
I don't know, man.
Is that what you call it?
Consider it's not a hobby.
That's true. That's true.
It's not a hobby. It's in some way community service.
I would consider
in a way. So I don't know. I'd call it at least a part-time job.
I'll take that.
Yeah, write it down, man.
Podcasting.
Link in that thing. Yeah. Link in it and resume it. And
sorry.
all those things you people who are young enough to need a job.
I'm just opening up my bottle of Eagle Rare that I just got in the mail.
Nice. And we talked about it already, but I am drinking a mixture of lemon Italian ice and nice pop and diet Sprite Zero, actually.
Sounds really tasty.
It is really good, and no alcohol in it, which is actually fine for me because I will be diabetic in the next year or two. I can tell. I'm not. I don't stop eating like No, it's coming. I gotta curtail my sugar. I'm addicted to sugar, man.
You're sweet, man. What can I say?
I
was just talking about the fact that. So I got asked to
tell the whole story.
Yeah. So I can actually talk about this, which is really cool. So I got asked to be a part of a day of basically craft spirits. It's the second annual Ohio Craft Whiskey Festival, and it takes place like 5 minutes from my house here in Cincinnati this year. And so one of the guys from the Dad Ass podcast, which we'll be talking more about them in the future. Mm-hmm. In some way, form, or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited about that. But Matt Lofi, one of the co-hosts for the show, he and I have gotten to be talking back and forth. I went and hung out with him up in Columbus a few weeks ago, and he was like, "Hey, man," he's like, Sean's not going to be able to come down to Cincinnati. Would you want to join me for a day of podcasting at the festival? And I was like, what? Like a full day of podcasting? And he was like, yeah. He's like, we're going to have a booth and we get to interview distillers and like people that are attending and talk to them about parenthood and like what their favorite cocktails are and like all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, that sounds like a freaking blast. You don't have to twist my arm. Yes, I'm in. And so I've been going to the distillery every once in a while, talking with their marketing people, which is stuff that I've been doing with the organization for like the past 3 or 4 years. But to get to sit down in person with somebody and talk with them and get to know them a little bit was really cool. Last time I was there, he gave me like a full on like tour of Carrican. And we walked around the whole distillery, showed me all kinds of really cool stuff. And then was like, hey, let's do some fun content. And I said, yeah, that's kind of what I came here for, along with, getting a free cup of coffee. Because he's got they have a coffee roaster like inside the place too. So it's like they're doing, they're distilling spirits, they're making beer, they're making a couple craft sodas, and then they have a coffee roaster here in town in their facility as well. So it's just, all Sweet. That plus food, it's like the place to go. Yeah. So anyway, what he did was he's like, let's drill into a barrel and let's get a taste right out of a barrel. And I'm like,
alrighty then.
I'm like, dude, this is like part of my bucket list. I've never done this before. And so I was there with one of their master distillers, and, they drill into it and they fill up probably a quarter of the way of like a pitcher of like almost like a beer pitcher or whatever. And then he goes and like pours it all into like really nice, like rocks glasses for everybody and stuff. And it's basically what's going to become their very first bonded barrel. They have the ability to do bonded, which takes specific federal elements involved in being able to have a bonded barrel.
Okay.
And so
what benefit is that to them or to you or to,
so not every distillery puts out a bonded, which is a 4-year-old bourbon that comes out at 100 proof.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah. So
we're gonna light that on fire.
100's nothing, man. I drink I've got ones way more than that. Coming straight out of if you get like a full proof, for instance, like I've got a full proof of Benchmark. It's 125 proof.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's too much for me, I think. I don't know.
Well, the one that we got, the Old Elk, is I think 114.
Is it?
Uh-huh.
That was 11.4. You know what? Numbers. So yeah, I'm not as impressed as I sounded. I was trying to be funny. No.
But anyway, so I went there and we did this whole tour thing, and I sat down with him and I was like, hey, listen, like, I know I'm doing some publicity for the festival and I really enjoy coming here. I'm curious, with my background working for the local tour place that does like brewery and distillery tours, would you have a place on your marketing team for me to help you with your TikTok account? Because that's something that they don't do a ton with. And he was like, we don't really have like a budget, but I would love to see you come in and be like a tour guide on the weekends. And then like also, have a place with taking on the TikTok account, and then we kind of see where things go. And I'm just like, all right, foot in the door. Like, we'll get, we will reconvene after the festival and see where this thing goes. Cause I'm like we're talking noon to 4 o'clock on Saturdays and Sundays, which is perfect. Go over, give some tours, hang out, shoot some content, and, really help hopefully get things moving along for them. So I'm excited because those are the things that I've really become passionate with, which is just learning about bourbon, learning about just the distilling process, and then sharing it with other people. So yeah.
Nice. And that's a great opportunity too, not only for you, but also for the company.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a win-win on both sides, especially because you mentioned they're really not doing as much as they can with TikTok. Like a lot of the other stores and distilleries really are using every social media, and TikTok's kind of a new one for a lot of us old people. Right. So,
well, and the funny thing is, and this is the other thing, this is why you were like, hit record, because we were talking about this.
Yeah.
There is a guy up out of Columbus who's known as a bourbon dad on TikTok. And if you're on TikTok, go follow him. Great content. But the thing with it is that he got a hold of a bottle of Watershed Distillery bourbon from them. And it was a very specific bottle. It was like a limited release. And he did some content on it. And they reached out to him. And I think his like part-time or his job at that time was like being a like contractor or something like that. But it's, middle pandemic, not everybody, I mean, materials are expensive. So he's not really getting a whole lot of work. It doesn't seem like it. And so they invite him in to be a tour guide on the weekends. And so not only do you get to come to that distillery and get knowledge from somebody at their, on a tour, but you're also getting to meet a pseudo like celebrity, because I mean, his TikTok account just went and blew up, like 10,000 followers. It was insane.
Nice.
And his mom's on TikTok too, which is hilarious. So he's known as a bourbon dad and she's known as a bourbon mom.
Nice.
Which is great.
Nice.
And she calls everybody that's like in the TikTok, bourbon TikTok community her children. So it's really funny.
Sweet.
But so he's working for them as a tour guide, and, months later, I don't know, maybe even like a year later, I'm not even sure, but just recently he posted that he was transitioning out of being a tour guide. And I reached out to him on the side. I'm like, what are you doing, man? And
where are you going?
He's staying within the house, only he's moving into sales and doing stuff with them in that respect. And I'm just like, awesome. So like I get to actually meet him in person at the festival because he's going to be there with Watershed. And I mean, it's just all these things. It's like, who would have thought that starting up a TikTok account and just like talking about your life or talking about bourbon would get you possibly into a job, or part-time job or whatever it is that just feeds into your passion, which is the thing that I love to tell dads about, is like, don't fret or like pull back from your passion of something, of sharing it, because you never know, like someone catches onto it. And next thing you know, you're living it.
And the number of people that are interested in what you're interested in,
right?
That they want to see how you're genuinely excited about, I don't know, trains, whatever, whatever it is. If I had a great love, if I was a train enthusiast, I probably would talk about it because that's what I do. I can't stop talking. But realistically, I would never expect, well, I'll do a TikTok about trains or whatever, and anybody to really respond. It would be something that I'd be doing for myself because it's passion,
Right. Yeah.
It's what, we've been talking with a lot of organizations, especially with nonprofits, about it's a passion thing. Whatever you're doing, it's because of your love for it. But there are plenty of other people who love whatever you love for the most part. Yeah. And bourbon is like, I mean, come on, that is a dad drink without, even if you're sober. If someone says, what kind of person drinks bourbon? Well, dads drink bourbon. Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen your dad drink bourbon? Well, I mean, no, but I mean, it's like grilling. It's just like there, It's when you're young, it's probably beer. Hey, dad wants a beer, but as you kind of advance and you can make things more available for your family, for yourself, then you go to bourbon. Like,
right. Exactly. When you slow down a little bit, you enjoy just
slow down a little bit.
Slow down a little bit. You enjoy sitting and sipping and having a conversation. Right. Yeah. Yep. Well, I was actually, it was funny because I was listening to 700 WLW today, and we don't have a Total Wine around here. Like the closest one is in Indianapolis. Okay. And it's funny because they had a commercial for Total Wine, and in the commercial, it was basically them selling bourbon to kid, like, selling bourbon as like a Father's Day gift. Like, hey kid, hey adult kid, like, don't forget to get your dad that barrel pick of bourbon in a bottle that he really likes, kind of deal. And the funny part about it was, like, in the commercial, the kid gives the bottle to him, and he's like, oh, you were always my favorite or something like that. And they go, oh, thanks, Dad. And he's like, no, I was talking about the bottle. They're like, oh my gosh, like that was some great marketing writing right there.
That is perfect, Dad. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just all that. Well, even too, so other guys that have gone and taken their passions to other places. You've got Greg Washington. And the things that he has done with the Booze Brothers is awesome. Friday nights on YouTube. You can, basically participate in the whole talk, which is fun because you can text and message back and forth and stuff. And they talk about all kinds of things, but you learn a lot about beer from them.
Yeah.
And they bring on so many different people, and it's very diverse, and they talk about diverse topics as well. And it's like when I get the opportunity to actually sit down and watch it, it's always fun because most of the guys on there are people that I know too. So, and I got to actually be on one of the shows a while back, and that was a lot of fun. And it's just literally like, hey, like, here's what I'm drinking and talking about it. And I mean, it's all virtual. So it's like just telling the notes and stuff. So Greg started that up, and he's been going full bore with it. It's been really cool. And then you have Joe Saladino and Sad
Beercast.
Sad Beercast. Wow, man, he's gonna kill me for not remembering that.
That's okay, Joe. You're my favorite.
Oh, crikey!
Just saying.
So yeah, the Sad Beercast with Joe and Jacob, like they've really taken that to like a whole new level, because it was just the two of them in a garage talking. Or the other one that's really funny is their quick reviews that they do literally by like Jacob's trash can outside of his garage, which I've been there for that, which is always, that was hilarious. Like when I visited him last year, but
and you're like, we're gonna do it right here. I mean, I guess it's fine. It's a podcast. They'll video it too. They do video for their shoes, but realistically, it's just a podcast. So it's audio only mainly, but still.
Yeah, you get the video. You get the video with the Instagram when he does the quick review. So that's the fun part with that. But on top of that, though, like they've come to partner with all these big breweries and small breweries out there, and they're very well known with those breweries and getting to be more well known because they've really pushed in on, hey, like we actually have something to bring. Yes, we are in a small little corner, but we have a lot to bring. And Joe is using a lot of what he's learned and who he has like come in contact with to also do some very interesting things with like the beer share for Home DadCon. And I'm not going to go into any great detail on that because like there's a lot of things that I don't think I'm allowed to share because of just what they're doing. But
members only.
They're busting their butts to do some really cool stuff with that. So those are the ones that I've seen most recently in those realms, but there's so many others. Like there's, you've like,
well, do you know Robbie Samuels?
I do.
You at least know his name. Yeah. And he's been around for a while, and he was at Raleigh years and years ago. And what he's done basically to market himself over something he enjoys, which is Zoom calls and presentations and building networks and things like that, which he's just naturally good at.
He saved our ass.
But yes, that's it. He's like, not doing it for himself. I mean, I'm sure he's getting benefits out of it. I guarantee he's getting benefits out of it, but he does it because it's a passion, because he wants to help people, because he wants to bring people together or bring them to a new place in their business or whatever, you want to write a book or whatever it is. He's helping people,
right.
And he does it because he loves it, and he's just darn good at it.
He is. And he also just knows how to like be like, oh, you want to do this? Like, let's elevate it to that. Like, we came to him with the idea of like, hey, we have this idea for a virtual event. But none of us had a clue on how to like really make it functionable. It was like, we had all the parts, but it was like, we couldn't put the machine together. And then we got him on a call, and he immediately was like, oh yeah, like we'll do this, and this. And I remember getting off of the call with him and all of us being in the Zoom call afterwards and looking at each other and going, oh my gosh, like we wouldn't have been able to have done that. Like not
right.
And it wasn't so much of just the like know-how, but it was the execution of it and just all the moving parts. And then he comes in and he's basically like the glue that puts it all together. And it was honestly like one of the major catalysts for why DadCon at Home in 2020 was such a success.
Yeah.
Because he ran the show for us while we did all the other little parts to it. And I cannot thank him enough for him coming in and doing that for us. It was awesome.
Right. And while he's, he is doing his thing, he's making money with it, or whatever. Again, it's his passion. It's a thing. He's like, well, what can I do with this? And, it started out with just as Zoom calls when I mean, most of us, well, I know what a Zoom call is. My kid does that for school, right? But the reality of how very important it was to be able to be on a Zoom call, to give a presentation, the difference between an in-person convention and what you get out of it, and then being able to try to do that virtually. I wasn't on the board at the time. I don't know anything about what went on behind the scenes or anything like that, but I can just imagine how daunting that was.
Oh yeah.
And to pull it off so well. I mean, it was a team effort for sure.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, without Robbie, I don't know if it would have even happened. Really, he was just so instrumental. But back to the point, because he loves helping people.
Right.
You can just tell it when you talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, definitely. I mean, he was
another example.
He was basically doing like these Friday late afternoon like happy hour too, which was really cool because like you could just jump on one and like learn some things, and it was like these little mini TED Talks. And then also like some really cool networking. Like I remember talking with somebody from like Australia and like somebody from like England all at the same time. Like he would just like put you in a room with random people and be like, here, you got 10 minutes, like get to know each other. And it was like so much fun. If you were an outgoing person, it was like,
if you're an extrovert,
cool. If you were an introvert, you're like, I can't find me a corner in this virtual room. Oops.
Right. Oh, look, my camera and my mic went out suddenly. I don't know what happened.
Exactly. Where did that guy go? Like, he just completely disappeared.
It's really funny, but I have because I've been on a lot of Zoom calls over the last couple of years, and there's always a breakout, and it's not always, but whenever it's a breakout, we're just gonna put some random people in a room like you're talking about, and every time I go in and I'm like, okay, are these going to be extroverts? Are these going to be introverts? Or is it going to be a mix? What am I going to get? And it's so funny because you start out and you know immediately if that other person is going to be an extrovert or an introvert. Yep. And I love it too, because I've gotten in so many really great calls with extroverts, and 10 minutes isn't enough, man. We got to keep talking. We got these we got great ideas going on. Oh, well, we got to go back, and it's amazing. And Robbie took that virtual convention to just a much higher level because of his ability to pull it. Here's a breakout session. What do you need? How do we do it? And do you want to do, whatever else, all the stuff that came together for it. Very impressive work.
Definitely. But yeah, it all comes down to his passion for wanting to do that. So, yeah. So that's, and that's the thing with, I find it interesting when you talk to folks just about like, what do dads do? Especially like, what do at-home dads do? And it's like, we do a lot of different things. Like, honestly, like I talked actually to a lady today who she's 80 years old, and she started a parents forum. And so she reached out and just kind of wanted to know about the organization, kind of who we are and what we do. And we had a great conversation. And in the end, she was just like, wow, like, things have changed, in the time since she had started that. I think she said that she started the parenting forum like 35 years ago or something like that. So, or 30 years ago, that's what it is. So she was like 50 when she started it. Now she's 80 and she's looking to hand it off to some younger people and stuff. And, but we were just talking about different things that I'm doing, different things that other dads are doing. And she was very just like, wow, like this is so cool to hear about. And I just think that that's the one thing that I hope that this podcast and that the organization like does well is just continues to put out those kind of stories of what dads are doing. Cause there's so much else going on in the media, and unless it's like some big virtual thing, that goes crazy virtual or not virtual, but crazy viral. Some people don't even hear about it. And there's so many things that dads are doing. So like, I really love the fact that, John Francis was talking about giving back to the community. And I really hope that the local news stations here pick that stuff up, and really run with it, because those are the stories that people need to be hearing right now. I mean, there's a lot of other things going on in the world, but like, people need to hear some really positive, some positive things going on out there, along with all the other crazy.
And then changing the stereotype, which men have been doing that. And I should say the world in general, society's been changing that old stereotype and making sure we understand who people really are, that anybody can be anything kind of stuff. But getting past for our specific little niche of at-home dads, or dads that are taking care of their children, and dads that are there, even if it's not full-time, but they're very involved fathers, and just making it normal, making it common. Like, yeah, of course. Yeah. My dad stayed home, or my dad was always at my games, or whatever it is, pushing that narrative of involvement and nurturing and caretaking, and moving things like Father's Day, which is a great event for the family, from let's give dad a tie and I don't know what else, I don't know what dads get, used to get stereotypically, but moving it to, well, let's spend some time with some other dads. Yeah. Let's go out and figure out what other dads are doing. Like you said, a community event. Can we go do, we've done with the organization, we've done diaper banks, which is always a great thing. You can never have enough diapers when your kids are in diapers. So true. It's just, oh my God. So, but being able to offer some help or give some help back, and all the organizations that we've talked to over the years at the conventions and such, Minneapolis specifically, where is it the Fatherhood Project that was in Minneapolis? Yeah. I don't remember. Man, I'm so sorry, but it's been years.
That's what it was. It was the Fatherhood Project. No, you good.
Yeah, and that they're talking to young dads who had children very young, who have gone through whatever, it's a job loss or it's even criminal activity, things that have taken them away from their children, and building those steps back. And these men are out there doing the work just to be with their kids. Yeah. Just to spend time, their weekend a month or whatever it might be, but getting back to where they can have time with their children, love their children, nurture their children. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. The organization has done, I think, a good, solid job year after year after year of helping to build up that understanding of what dads can be.
I would say the one thing that honestly dads can't say anymore, and I'm so happy that they can't say this anymore, is that, oh, there's no help for me, or there's nothing there. I don't know who to go to for XYZ thing, because there's either an organization or a person out there who is just a simple message away from helping have some sort of conversation, whatever it is. Like, you've got fatherhood.org or fatherhood.gov, actually, which I believe was started by President Obama, if I'm not mistaken. And then you've got the fatherhood projects that are around, and most cities have something like that. Like big cities, a lot of times have different programs and things. And that's why a lot of times when, for like my dad's group specifically, I get guys who are just like, I don't know what to do, or my kid's doing this. Like I saw where actually somebody in the Discord channel had posted like, hey, like I'm having these issues with speaking to my kid and getting them to basically listen to me and see me as an authority figure, and just had a sounding board of people to talk to him and to give him stuff. And I'm just like, between the dad's groups and the fatherhood coaches that are out there and the fatherhood organizations that are out there, there is somebody that will not judge you and will listen to you and give you the safe place to speak, and then try to see what can be done to move you forward in a positive way. And it gets one of those deals where it's like, if you say that doesn't exist, then you are basically denying what's actually already out there. And okay. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I don't know. I would say if you're not seeing it though, ask somebody.
Right.
It's there.
Don't be quiet about it.
Whatever it might be. And that's just across the board with everything you do as a human being. I think these days, especially with Google and everything else we have, there's a Facebook page for it, or there's a Instagram for it. There's something where somebody's doing the thing that you're interested in. It's the same thing with dadding. Yeah. With being a father. My kids, my kid's 3. That's all you got to say. Yep. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. It'll get better. Don't worry.
It's okay.
Because you
Yes.
have that immediate, or, they're 18 months and why are they saying no to everything? It's the only word they seem, that's all that it is. Yeah. Yeah. And there's psychological reasons. First, why your child is doing this to you. And second, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dads who've been through the same exact thing.
Right.
And remember their kid doing that to them for, it seemed like a year.
Yep.
But whatever it might be, there's somebody there that's run into it, or that has a similar situation that's similar enough to where they can help you up.
Yeah. And there's great books out there too. And the nice part is like, oh, I don't read. I get it. I'm not a huge reader myself. There's some great audiobooks out there as well. Yep. And from just amazing authors that have lots of, awesome things to say. I mean, Shannon Carpenter, like his book is awesome. You got Catherine Perlman's books that are out there. And, you've got Dr. Oh golly, what's her name?
Anna Machen.
Yep. There it is. I'm glad I got the first
I knew
part
who
right.
you were talking about. I knew who you were talking about.
Hey man, it's been a day. Okay. It's like 100 degrees out here. I'm losing my mind. My brain's melting. But yeah, I mean, just like all these awesome people out there. I mean, there's even books for dads who are trying to connect with their teenage kids. Like there's a guy by the name of Mark Lemasters that I met through Dad 2.0 that did these awesome books called Friday Night Lights, or is like Friday Night Lights, Father and Daughter or something like that. And there's one for fathers and sons or whatever, but it's basically like 12 or 14 different like activity, like date type ideas, like, hey, we're going to go out and do this and talk about these things. Because you think about it, like, oh, I'm going to go out with my teenager. What am I going to talk to them about? Like, well, this book gave all these great ideas about it. And so, just stuff like that. There's all these amazing resources out there. That's why, like, usually around Father's Day week or Father's Day, like in June and just in itself, I usually try to go to the libraries and push them to put out fatherhood type books on display, because they do it for Mother's Day. I know they do. And they do it for Pride, and they do it for, Black History Month and everything else. And it's like, there's some awesome fathers books out there. Like, let's get them out on the shelves for people.
Yeah. And I went and I heard this basically from Shannon's podcast, on the podcast that he's a part of, where they had gone to their local library,
the Dad House,
said, hey, the Dad House podcast. Can I get a copy of Shannon Carpenter's The Ultimate Stay-at-Home Dad here at the library? Can I get one in here where we can, where I can read it, whatever, and doing that on a local level to move that forward. And it was like, well, that's great because that's him and his book. And I think it was somebody's father or his father that had done that for him. Great. But the other part of it is telling the library, I want to see more books about how to handle my kids as a dad, or how to, what I need to do, how do I teach my kids to, talking teenagers, there's so much, that's such treacherous territory that you can get into with your kids.
Well, in his book is a Penguin book. So it's published by a large company, which means that the library is going to go after that book, versus it's a lot harder for someone that's self-published to get it in the library. But for like something that's published on that level, like libraries eat that stuff up. They love that.
And Dr. Machen's book was The Life of Dad.
Yes.
That for me was just a turning point in my understanding of what I would call generational parenting. Just, how you would have to teach your kids to survive, to like literally not die. That was what it was. How do you go out in the, and find food, or how do you avoid, the mountain lions or bear or whatever it is, to moving to evolutionarily moving to, okay, well, now we're not so worried about survival. Now we have to look at our financial needs so that we can pay for the food that we need. And then moving to beyond that to more of an enlightened mindset of what you need to teach your kids. Okay, well, you figure out how to get paid, how to make a job. What do we do about the existential crisis that like every generation Z kid is going to have at some point,
right? Because
of the things they're facing in their day-to-day life. And it's just amazing that there are all of these books out there just kind of waiting. Somebody's done the work for you. Just go find it.
Well, I mean, so you remember the book, What to Expect When Expecting, right? Like how much of a phenomenon that is. So do you know the name Armin Brott? Do you know who that is?
I don't know why.
Okay. He's put
But,
out a
yeah,
bunch of
Armin?
different books. So Armin Brott wrote The Expectant Father and
Oh, okay.
The
All right.
Ultimate Guide for Dads to Be. I just got a hold of, he sent me because I was trying to get him on the show and it's been crazy. Like he's so busy with stuff. It's been a little difficult trying to actually like get him. But at one point we were like really close to getting him on the show and then communication just fell off. But he just released his 5th edition of that book and he's redone a lot of the spots in it because I mean, when he wrote it so long ago, he wrote it in like interjection to the what to expect when expecting because he didn't like that just how it played so much to mom and not so much to dad and he was like he's like there's a lot of things that dads need to know and so he wrote it and then like I said he's just continued to update it over time and I mean it's sold over like 1.5 million copies like it's a very famous book and so I actually for me it's not something that like I need because like my kids are all older, but anytime like one of my friends or some, a dad that I run into is like, hey, I'm getting ready to have my first kid or whatever. I'm like, hey, I got just the book for you to borrow. Like I'm like, here, go read it, bring it back to me when you're done with it or whatever. Like if you want to talk about it, let's get a beer and talk or whatever. And I've given the book out a couple different times to guys and they're like, man, that was such a good read. And I'm just like, yes, you're welcome. Like, like,
right.
That's cool.
And it covers so many things. And I remember it now because I remember when we talked about getting him on the show previously, and that's where I'd heard his name. So, but having the ability to tell a new dad or expecting dad anything that they're going to run into, because as a first timer, I've never done anything that I realized I knew so little about as babies. I'm just like, I mean, because I had changed diapers, I had taken care of kids. I knew, the ins and outs of a child, okay, it cries, it needs something, that kind of thing, but no idea about just how far reaching everything is when you have a child and they're in your care, even if it's, you're working full time and you just come home and, and give your wife some relief or what have you, you're still changing so much about your life.
Right.
That, how can you be prepared for that? Well, read a good book.
I remember like someone was like, what kind of advice would you give to like a first time dad? And I told him, I said, the advice I'm going to give you is going to sound kind of gruesome in a way, but honestly, I feel like it's a need to be said type of thing. And it's this, I understood like a few months in, maybe not even a few months in, to why it is that you hear stories about parents shaking their babies and all this different stuff.
Wow.
Because one night I just had this like crazy, like here's what was going on. Like I was holding my child, firstborn. He would not stop crying. And he had been fed, he had been changed, he had, all this stuff, like everything, like he should be totally fine. But no, he just screaming his head off the entire time. And I'm holding him and I'm, trying to do different things. And I just was so frustrated. And my wife came in and was like, just put him down in the crib. And I just like put him down and I walked out of the room and I just turned to my wife and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, seriously, I am so frustrated. And I just turned to her and I said, I understand why it is that parents sometimes get so frustrated. They just almost like separate their mind. And it's like, I can shut this kid up if I just, do something. And unfortunately, it's like this horrible act.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I get it because you're just like, I just want him to be quiet. And to me, just the fact that you need to be able to give yourself that ability to just be like, I'm going to put this like very loud alarm clock down right now and walk away for a few minutes. Like they're fine. They're in the crib. They're cool. Everything's good.
Yeah.
Like they can scream their little head off. Like it'll be okay.
Yeah. They'll take a minute, 2, 5, even.
Yes. Well,
yeah. If it comes to between your sanity
yes,
and that child being held for 5 minutes, you need to take up 5 minutes. Yeah.
Right. Get a breath. Like come back to level-headedness and try again, and see where it's at. And that was the one thing that I told this one dad, and he was like, "Oh, that sounds really scary." Like his kid was like on the way, and I'm like, I'm like, dude, there are just gonna be those moments where like your kids are gonna drive you to like the brink of insanity. And it just takes that moment of just saying, okay, pause, I'm gonna walk away. Like they're fine, but I need to like distance myself for a few minutes and just bring myself back to a place of calmness. Because if you're not calm, the kid's not gonna be calm. Like they feel that. Like that whole, like, whether it's skin to skin contact or just even like close by, like if your heart's racing, they can feel that. And I think sometimes we forget, like, just like our body heats up, they're going to feel that, like all these different things. And when you finally recognize that, then you realize like, oh, like I'm actually sort of like putting things out there that my kid's feeling, and that's sort of also part of the cause. So if I separate, that might actually bring the level of insanity down on all on the whole front. So yeah, so that's like my big thing that I usually like to share with brand new dads, because I'm just like, you will get to that point. Like your wife will get your spouse, your partner will get to that point, and it's okay to just be like, just put them down. Come here, let me give you a hug or whatever it is.
Or go, let me give you 30 minutes to go take a shower.
Right. Oh,
so I cannot tell you how valuable that is in that
for both of you.
6 months. It's like,
it's
like, you have saved my life, the life of myself and my child and my wife, by coming over and watching my screaming child while I take a shower. Just have 30 minutes to myself.
If it's a dad, if it's a dad that likes a beer, here's the shower beer. Go enjoy.
Take a shower beer and just calm down. Be quiet.
Right. So I mean, just stuff like that. Like it's funny too, because it wasn't until I really started getting to know guys in this organization and talking with them that I started gleaning these little bits of information, like on a more regular basis. So, we come back to it almost every episode, every conversation. All men need a men's group of some kind. You need a group, you need peers, and then you need a mentor of some kind. Yep. That's something that I've never really felt that we have, or I have in my life, really accomplished, really thought of, really known I needed, And I think if anything else too, I would tell a new dad and a mature dad and an ancient dad, do you have a men's group? Do you have a dad's group? Yeah. Do you have other dads you can go talk to? Do you have a mentor? Do you have someone that you're mentoring even? Yeah. Because all of that interaction is so very valuable, because that peer group is where you learn all of those little tricks, like I've said this before, I'm sure, but I keep a 1 gallon Ziploc bags in my car, and I kept them in my van, in my truck, I should say. So I always have them, because if we're driving on the road and we're on a trip, a kid's going to get sick. He needs to throw up. Yep. Here's your bag. Just hold this, throw up in it, zip it closed when you're done. That to me, that has saved my vehicle for sure. And where did you get that idea from?
I got that on another podcast, the Sad Pod.
Oh, Sad Pod back in the day. Yeah.
Guys in California.
Yeah.
And if they're listening, I'm sorry, guys, I forgot your name, because that's what I do.
They've been gone for quite a while, so it's okay.
I miss those guys. Yeah. Last time I saw them was Minneapolis, but
oh wow.
Yeah, they also got into, from what I understand, some jobs. And said, well, I have skills and I'm a dad. Can I go, into television production, whatever?
Was it the Sad podcast, or was that the At Home Dad podcast?
The At Home Dad podcast.
Okay.
Sad Pod was the older one. You're right.
Sad Pod is the older one. Yeah. That one, the last time I heard from those guys was Portland. So that's why I was like, Minneapolis, who was that? But yeah, man, I mean, just all the, like,
those guys, I'm those guys. I was on Sad Pod.
You were not.
I was one of the hosts.
On Sad Pod? Really? Okay. Well,
with David McEwen.
McEwen.
Yeah, the Australian guy.
Yeah. I remember. That's how I got my introduction into the National At Home Dad Network in some ways. So, but no, like, so you're talking about,
Way to get our podcast straight, man. We're getting all confused.
It's okay. So you were talking though about having some sort of men's group type of thing, and I think it's interesting. You run into some guys who are like, nah, man, like I don't have any. It's like, what's your life like? are you angry a lot? Like, do you feel like you have an outlet to talk to somebody? And, you know, as soon as you ask that question, you can see they're like, oh crap, I've been called out, you know? And you're just like, you've got to have somebody, like, you can't just bottle it up. Like, I bet more times than not, I would put money down on this. If you don't have somebody to talk to, especially another guy, I bet you're getting angry quicker. You're blowing up on your kids more than you'd like to. And your wife or your partner is trying to figure out what to do, but also walking on eggshells because they don't want to even take a chance at lighting that powder keg. And it's one of those deals where it's like, come on, dude, like, it's not that big a deal. Go find a new friend, for crying out loud. Like, for real. So that's what I like about like the dad's night out stuff. You know, you get guys that just come and hang out. I get some guys that come and hang out and they don't say a word half the time. Or they wait till the end and then you see them to like start talking, like they feel comfortable at that point. And then they show up to the next one after that and they keep coming back. And it's just one of those, all right, you're a slow cook, but we'll get you there kind of deal. So yeah. I highly agree with you on the fact, like, you got to find a connection with other dads for sure. So did you find it?
So I just want to point out, because I'm going to, and you can put this in the show notes if you'd like, Sad Pod, the Stay-at-Home Dad podcast, season 1, episode 1, the importance of online community to stay-at-home dads. And this inaugural episode, David McPhee of sunny Palm Coast, Florida, Craig Levine of Parkland, South Florida, Danny Mercer of Georgia, and Maddie McGraw, who's in California. Man. Discuss. Yeah. And I hosted one of them, I think a summer show or something like that. It's been a long time.
So do you remember were you on there when they were doing the live shows? Like through the one, there was some weird.
We were all on the phone.
No, I know that. But like, you guys went from just recording and publishing to some points you were actually on live. And there was this app that it was going through and you could actually listen to it live and send messages. And David would from time to time actually like read the comments that were on there. And I would sit in my bedroom and listen to it with Corey next to me, and we would die laughing like throughout the whole thing. And I would from time to time like put in a message or whatever. And I remember David for the longest time being like, oh, like our one fan Brock is listening to this kind of deal.
Sweet.
So yeah, because I mean, I went on a camping trip with college students when Portland was going on because I couldn't make it there. And I had just become a stay-at-home dad. And I literally sat in my hammock during our free time and listened to the show while it was happening from Portland. So yeah. So it was always funny. Like, and I would message them. I'd be like, yep. I'm like, I got my free time. I'm in my hammock, just listening to you guys.
just letting it go. That's right.
So, but I love that. Like, I mean, there's still to this day, like there are guys that listen to our show and comment stuff, you know, in different ways. Like we'll get an email or somebody will leave a message about something and, you know, oh, hey, like I just happened to be listening to your show. I think it was cool. Through one guy on Discord, he reached out through the info at homedad.org and was like, hey, I found you guys through a book. And I'm like, oh, really? Which book was that? And he was like, the Ultimate Stay-at-Home Dad Guide. And I was like, oh, by Shannon Carpenter. And he said, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he was like, I'm not on Facebook. I loathe Facebook. How can I connect with you guys? Are you guys on any other forum, any other platforms? And I'm like, actually, yes, we have a Discord server for those who want to be on that versus on Facebook, and it's growing regularly. And he was like, oh, I want in. And so like I put him in there and he's been talking ever since. It was so funny because I called Shannon and I was like, hey, Shannon, I was like, there's this guy, and like explained the whole thing. He's like, oh man, he's like, that's so awesome. He's like, he's like, you're just giving me all kinds of like good vibes. I'm like, awesome, man. I'm like, so happy for you. And he's like, I want in the Discord channel too. And I was like, okay, cool. So I gave him the stuff. It was so funny. He hopped on, he started talking. I was like, hey, Shannon, what's going on? And the guy was just like, oh, hey, like, and then it was like a total like fanboy thing. And I'm just like, this is hilarious to watch happen through like just chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love those moments. It's amazing too because you meet basically what would be considered your hero, or a dad that you really are inspired by, and it's like, look, I'm seriously he's a dude that changed diapers. That's there's no difference. He's not a superstar, and I'm not talking about Shannon, because I think we all know Shannon's kind of a superstar, but for the rest of us,
right.
When you meet guys, especially if you've known them on the Discord or know them on, Facebook or whatever, you have virtually met them, meeting them in person, the same as it would be with anything. But it's kind of one of those things that you really don't know how to put a face to the voice or a face to the text. And then you see them and you're like, oh, okay. I didn't know you were 7.5 feet tall. I never thought about, didn't recognize you. So yeah, it's really cool.
And he was funny too, because he actually, what did he do? Oh, he's from like this little tiny place in Canada, and he had gotten a hold of his book, and he was like, man, it was just life-changing for me. Like, this has been so great. And it was funny because I said, well, like, not to toot my own horn, but I'm on like page 2. And he's like, what? And he must have been reading it on like a Kindle or something. He's like, I got to scroll back and look at that. And I was like, actually, if you look through the guys that are in this group, you're going to find a lot of names that are in that book. And he's like, oh, that's really cool. And like, that's the thing I love, man. There's just all these different ways that connecting like that takes place. So yeah, I can't say enough good things. My dog is freaking out right now over something.
My kids are doing the same.
Yeah.
They came over and knocked on the door a minute ago. I'm like, yeah, told you. I get 1 hour a freaking week, man.
The alarm has not gone off yet. Yeah.
Their alarm's gone off, I'm sure. I'm like, Dad, I'm sure it's been an hour.
I'm still trying to figure out how to get to the escape room. Leave me alone. That's what that comes down to.
Gonna need more duct tape.
Well, before we go, I do want to say to everybody, happy Father's Day. This is going to, of course, air after Father's Day, but hopefully you had a good Father's Day. Hopefully you got to enjoy Father's Eve. I know you're going up to hang out with the guys in the Twin Cities.
Yeah. I would have been in Apples.
Yeah. So
I got a sleepover.
I know Eric's really excited. He was talking about it last night. So, yeah. And, just honestly, I hope that it all is, a lot of fun for everybody and that they got something out of it. So, other than that, working on getting some guests on here soon. Definitely. I talked to, like I said, like the 80-year-old lady that I talked to, she's setting me up with a guy, part of their organization that lives in like Algeria, who wants to talk with us about fatherhood and what's going on over there. And I'm like, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So we might have to record that in the middle of the day though, because they're 6 hours ahead of us.
I'll be here. You want to set that up? I'd happily do that, because I like to know more about, because the differences in culture and society and everything that changes and how you deal with being a dad. I'd love to hear it.
Definitely. So I'll get that lined up and a few others. And then also too, keep an eye out. There's going to be some Home Dad Con announcements coming out here real soon. Speaker announcements. We've been building graphics. I'm really excited to get them pushed out, because it's getting close. I think we're just over 100 days. That's crazy. I think there's like 108. It'd be like 100 days by the time this airs.
It's like finally, it's coming. Go to Home Dad Con. Finally,
Home Dad Con has come.
That's right. In Phoenix too. Never been to Phoenix.
I know, right? Me neither.
It's gonna make today look like a walk in the park.
It's going to make today feel like today. It's really hot out right now.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, with that, y'all have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.